period, if you've got COVID, is being shortened from today from 7 days to 5. That's only if you record a negative lateral flow test on both days 5 and 6. It's been brought in to try and address problems with staff shortages across a number of industries. One area suffering is teaching. We can find out more now about how they've been affected as I'm joined by Knowsley Primary School teacher Damien McNulty. He's also executive member for Cheshire and Merseyside for the teaching union, the NASUWT. Damien, good morning to you.
Good morning, Paul.
So schools have been back up a couple of weeks now, maybe slightly less for some. Have there been many issues so far?
Yeah, there certainly have, Paul. Nationally, NASUWT undertook a snapshot survey last week, and almost half of our members are reporting having to cover for absent colleagues, and more concerningly, almost half of those colleagues are also reporting that there's very little planning in place about the use of CO2 monitors in those schools to ensure that there's appropriate ventilation.
I mean, if staff are absent, what's the way of getting around it? Is it bigger class sizes? Is that what's going on at the moment?
It certainly is what's going on at the moment, and we're hearing from colleagues, for example, in Unison, where actually a member of the school office staff in a secondary school in the area just last week was asked to supervise 90 children in a school hall. Now, very clearly, that's not something we would recognise as an appropriate use of staffing, and it's certainly at best only childcare and presents some possible real issues around health and safety. So I would question some of the arrangements that are in place for providing that cover.
And of course, it's not just teachers, is it, by any means? If you've got support staff that can't get in, if you've got teaching assistants, all that kind of thing, any of those absences are going to have an impact, aren't they?
Yeah, they certainly do. On Friday, we heard of one primary school where of the 7 cleaners that are employed to work in school doing exceptionally important and valuable work, only 2 were able to attend work due to COVID absence, so the primary school had to close.
So we're hoping COVID cases will fall, but is there anything that could be done to help in the meantime?
Yeah, absolutely. What we're calling for is that all schools have a really effective plan in place for the use of their CO2 monitors, and that the government who have announced the use of air purification filters in schools ends the lunacy of a bidding process for the very small number that are available. The government issued over 350,000 CO2 monitors to schools, and they've made available 7,500 air filtration units that schools have to bid for. We want schools to be effectively funded and appropriately funded to put in place proper, effective plans so that children can be in their classrooms, taught by their teachers. We know that that's the best place for them, and that's where our members want to be, in a safe working environment with the children.
Yeah, and of course, at the moment, in terms of ventilation, a lot of windows are being left open, doors are being left open, understandably, but you could end up with children and teachers going off with other illnesses because they're freezing cold.
Well, absolutely, and that's why the air filtration systems are so important, Paul, because those can work and to provide a very effective, safe environment without any impact on the heating. You don't need to have doors and windows open. It's not fair on the young people in classrooms, particularly at this time of year, or the staff that have to work in them, to have to work with hats on, coats on, and to be cold. At the very least, we're recommending that 10 to 15 minutes of ventilation every hour at such cold times. Really important that happens, and perhaps taking the children outside or to another place where they can move around and effectively have some extra play times while the classroom air is purged and turned over.
And just finally, Damien, has there been any more clarity with regards to what's happening with the exams this year? Because it's getting to the stage now where kids are doing mocks, aren't they? But they'll be wondering whether these mocks are going to count for the real thing.
Well, absolutely. Well, just what I've said in relation to the disruption, that has already disrupted a number of secondary schools' plans for mock examinations whenever they returned after Christmas, unfortunately. The government has announced that it will bring forward its plans for this summer's exams, GCSEs and A-levels, at the end of February. We believe that that's too little too late, and puts schools in a very challenging position where they may believe, understandably, that government's plan A is for the children to sit the exams, but to be sure, those schools understandably are looking to have in place arrangements like happened last year, where teachers are assessing students based on a huge range of pieces of work. Now that adds a lot of stress and pressure, not just to the teachers, but also to the young people, in the absence really of clarity from government again.
Damien, as always, thank you very much for joining me this morning.
You're very welcome, Paul. Take care.